Well, we know that communication is a big part of any relationship, yes? Is communication a big part of a relationship? My wife, Tara, and I have our most lively communication sessions when I am driving in traffic. That is when it really happens. We tend to be a little bit opposite in our driving styles, and 17 years into this thing, she still hates my driving. And I've gotten better. I don't know. I'm really working on it. But there's no miscommunication about how she feels when I'm driving. That is loud and clear. And when she is driving, I just close my eyes. She thinks I'm resting and I'm really praying the whole time. And so we both have different driving styles. But it really is too bad that the world doesn't offer a communication class when you get married. Wouldn't that be nice? Right? As soon as you get married, here's the class you must now go through. It's like a 100-part class that you get to go through to learn all about communication. But what we do have is we have the Bible that we can turn to, that we use as our roadmap in life. And right at the beginning of Genesis, we read that God did something very important when he made human beings. And we pick this up in Genesis 1:27, and it says this, that God made mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them, male and female. He created them. Male and female. In other words, God created two very different creatures. And we know this, don't we? We know this because of examples like these. When men visit a public restroom, they have a singular objective in mind. They go in, they handle their business, they try to avoid any eye contact or any conversation, right? And they're out. Women, on the other hand, consider it at times to be group therapy. You know, if we go to the bathroom together, we'll solve some stuff. And in fact, they can even go into a restroom and come out with a new best friend. They go in alone and come out with a new best friend. I don't know how they do that. When a woman sighs heavily, it probably means there's something going on, right? When a guy sighs heavily, it could just be a sigh. We don't know. When a woman says that she has nothing to wear, she's trying to get ready, it means she has nothing new to wear. And for us guys, it means that we have nothing clean to wear. And so those are some differences that we have. Why? Because we are different creatures, made by God beautifully and unique, but different. In fact, this is the first fill-in right on your notes, that God created men and women differently. Our needs will be different, and our communication will be different. Kind of like these two sets of glasses. One with a grayish blue, one with a red, right? Depending on what pair you are wearing at the time will determine how you decipher a situation, how you take it in. And when it comes to our needs and communication, we will see things and respond to things quite differently based on the glasses or person that we have been made to be. And one of the keys in any relationship is all about breaking the communication code. It's breaking. How many of you have ever broken the communication code? You think you've broken it? Anybody? Yeah, you don't want me to call on you yet. Okay, there's a couple of people that think we've broken the communication code. Well, actually, the Apostle Paul helps us with this. And he was writing in the first century to the followers of Jesus in the city of Ephesus. And he was talking about what God wanted for us in marriage relationships. And Paul gives us one of the biggest code breaks of all time when he gave us this instruction in Ephesians 5:33. This is what he said. So again I say, which means he's repeated this more than once. So again I say, each man must love his wife as he loves himself, and the wife must respect her husband. The husband must love his wife as he loves himself, and the wife must respect her husband. And this verse is going to be kind of our theme verse throughout this series. But God is saying, I made you, and I wired you to crave and need different things. And oftentimes for the woman, it is a craving for her husband to love her. And for a man, he craves that respect from his wife. Now, this is not a time to elbow your spouse and say, see, you're supposed to love me better, or hey, you're supposed to respect me better, see? So no elbowing yet. You can leave that for the car, all right? We'll do that later. But because we often miss the mark on this one. And the truth is that most times is that the wife needs love, and oftentimes the husband needs respect. It's a communication code that we are working to break together. See, your next fill in: love and respect are key to any marriage, but it can all rise and fall on communication, which starts with me, not with my spouse. It starts with me, right? This idea of love and respect, it's key for our marriages. I think we'd all agree on that. But it can all rise and fall on communication, which begins with me. You see, when we see biblical instruction, we have to remember that the Bible is always better used as a mirror instead of a magnifying glass. But oftentimes we want to use it as a magnifying glass, maybe against our spouse. Well, look what you need to do. When truth be told, it is best used as a mirror to say, God, what is it that you need to do in me? Start with me. And I think this story illustrates it well. A couple was about to celebrate their 10th wedding anniversary. And the wife began to wonder if her husband would remember, because there had been plenty of times over the past decade that he had forgotten their anniversary altogether. No matter what she did, little hints, big hints, he would miss it. But on their 10th anniversary, with no hints at all, he remembers. He makes a beeline for the Hallmark aisle and is soon gazing upon all those racks full of greeting cards. And one colorful card quickly catches his eye. He skims the words. They are perfect. He thinks, this card is so her, no doubt about it. He grabs it off the shelf. He pays the clerk and hurries home, rejoicing that he is going to get some major brownie points for this. Finally, he remembered their anniversary, and it's a special one too, the Big 10. So she was there when he arrived home, so he snuck into the bedroom to sign the card quickly, and he writes her name on the envelope and adds a couple little hearts above her name, because they like that. They like that, so he does the little extra hearts. And he even comes out, and he's ready. He's smiling. He hands his wife the card and the gift that he gave her, and she is beaming from ear to ear. She's so thrilled that he remembered. She tears open that card and begins to read it. And that is when her face falls. The eyes that had been bright with loving energy turn cold. Her beaming countenance becomes sour and dark. And so her husband asks, "What's wrong?" Now, he's a pretty sensitive guy. He can pick up on these things, right? And so he notices something's not right. She says, "Nothing is wrong." To which he says, "Well, there is too. I can tell. What is wrong?" "No, there's nothing wrong," she says. "But there is. I can see it." She responds, "Well, I guess the card's not bad if it were my birthday." As you can guess, the conversation heads downhill quickly from here. "You're kidding me." He grabs the card out of her hand to read it, and as he's reading it, he says, "No way, unbelievable. How could I have missed this?" The husband blinks in the face of his wife's very real anger, not knowing what to do. He knows he's full of goodwill. He has remembered their 10th anniversary. He has bought her a present as well as a card. And he says, "Well, honey, I made an honest mistake. Give me a break." "Give you a break? An honest mistake?" "Oh, it was an honest mistake, all right, because you just don't care. You know what? If you took your car in to be detailed and they put a stripe on the side that was even a fraction of an inch off, you would notice that, right? Why? Because you care about your car, but you don't care about our anniversary, and you don't care about me." The husband can't believe it. He's moving from feeling guilty to getting angry. What he thought would be a loving celebration of their 10th anniversary has become a conflict that is escalating fast. "Hey, I made an honest mistake, all right? Give me a break." Good grief. You buy me a birthday card on our 10th anniversary and you expect me not to be upset? I'd rather you had not bought me any card at all. Well, the husband's been on the defensive and now his pulse rate is up. He has tried to do the loving thing, but all his wife can say is nasty things. And so he responds, you know what? I'm glad I bought you a birthday card on our 10th anniversary, slams the door and walks out. And with that brilliant parting shot, only 2 minutes have passed since he handed her that card. And this couple, a husband and wife who truly love one another, have come home expecting to spend a wonderful romantic evening together. Instead, they end up stomping to opposite ends of the house, staring out the window in the darkness and wondering how it could ever come to this. Does any of that ever sound familiar? Right? Have you ever been there? Right? Different needs not getting met often lead to hurt and fighting or hurt and frustration because oftentimes we're looking through two different sets of glasses. Two different ways that God has uniquely made us. We're viewing them through differently. See your next fill-in. There is a communication code that needs to be figured out in every relationship if we're going to communicate in a healthy way. There's a communication code that we have to break and figure out in our relationships if we're going to communicate in a healthy way. Have you ever noticed that oftentimes the thing you're fighting about isn't really the thing you're fighting about? Have you ever been there? How the issue that you're fighting about isn't really the issue? I think we've all been there. And why is that? Because oftentimes what's happening on the inside of men and on the inside of women are very different. And we begin to discover that we act out in code because we aren't very good at communicating what we need. We get frustrated or angry because our needs aren't being fulfilled. I mean, come on, all of us have had to learn through this. All of us have grown through this. Tara and I are no exception. Right? There's been times this year's been difficult for us. Added stress and homeschool and all of these different things. Things that we've had to figure out, how do we communicate better with one another? Because oftentimes our actions are pushing someone away when what we really want is for them to be close. By our actions and our words, we're doing this, but really what we want is this. Our words, our tone, our anger are trying to push someone away, but in our heart of hearts, we only want them to be close, to meet some of those needs that are deep inside of us. And oftentimes what happens is we get in kind of this crazy cycle, and then we just kind of keep going around and around. If she doesn't feel loved, then she reacts. And if he doesn't feel respected, then he reacts. And around and around and around we go in this cycle, and we wonder when it will stop. So why is love and respect such a big deal? Well, it's because how God wired us for success in relationship. That when love and respect are present, it makes for a healthy relationship. I found this interesting. Dr. John Gottman, he's a professor in the Department of Psychology at the University of Washington. He led a research team that spent 20 years studying 2,000 couples. Imagine this, 20 years studying 2,000 couples who had been married to the same person between 20 and 40 years. And here's what he found. One of the astounding takeaways for couples who were consistently satisfied in their relationships was that there was a strong undercurrent of love and respect in how they communicated with one another. Interesting that God was right all along when Paul wrote those words. Men, you must love your wives as you love yourselves, and women, you must respect your husbands. Right, Paul gets super gender specific with us. Your next fill-in. Men, love your wife unconditionally, even when she doesn't come across respectfully. Right? This word love in the Greek, it means agape. And this word for love, there's several different words for love in the New Testament, but this word agape, it means this love is sacrificial, this love is unconditional, this love is laid down your life kind of love. And that's what Paul's instructing us to do. Men, agape your wife. Love her unconditionally. And then he gives the challenge to the women to respect your husband, even when he doesn't come across as loving. To work to find things that you can encourage and respect him for. And so I want you to picture for a moment your spouse having an air hose that's connected to their love tank. And that air hose is how you breathe, it's how you live. When we don't communicate in a way that meets that other person's truest need, it's like stepping on that air hose and they feel like they can't breathe. They can't breathe. And that is why for us men, criticism from their wife in communication feels like disrespect. When we feel criticized or harped upon, can easily begin to feel like disrespect, and we tend to distance ourselves. And again, put out that stiff arm. And it's why for women, silence or distance in communication can feel very unloving. And this is why how we communicate with one another is so important. To understand the other person's need and respond accordingly. So men, how can your communication come across as loving and sacrificial towards your wife? How can it come across as loving and sacrificial? And women, how can your communication come across as respectful and encouraging towards him? It's so important. Because your next fill-in, my choice of words and the tone in which they are delivered, along with a listening ear, will be the foundation of healthy communication. My choice of words and the tone in which they're delivered, along with a listening ear, will lay the foundation. It will be that foundation for healthy communication. Now, let me just say, too, that none of us could be all of these things all of the time. From time to time, we're going to blow it. From time to time, we're going to say the wrong thing. We're going to use the wrong tone. We're not going to listen. We're going to focus on our needs, not their needs. On and on and on it goes. This is going to be something that we are going to wrestle with all the days of our marriage, okay? I just want to let you know. And next week, we're going to talk about conflict, and I have something really cool that I want to share with you that I think might help. But I think under this idea of offering grace to one another in relationship, because we are going to mess this thing up from time to time. And so grace in relationship, quick to apologize, quick to forgive. But as I begin to wrap this up, I want to just give us a few practical things that I think that we can do to apply to our relationships, apply to our life. And maybe you'd grab one or two of these things to focus on this week. And the first thing is this, that our choice of words matter. Our choice of words matter. And we already know this. Intuitively, we know this. We know that our words have power. We know that our words can heal or our words can hurt. Phrases like, I'm leaving you, or I'm done with you are very powerful words. Or I wish you were more like so-and-so. Very powerful words. I can't stand this relationship. I feel so trapped. Or you never do this and you always do that are very powerful words. Or I'm with you through this and love you in spite of this are very powerful words. I know you are trying and I appreciate how hard you're working at this are very powerful words. I would never leave you or give up on you even though I don't know how to help us yet are powerful words. I want to understand how you're feeling and how I can help again, are very powerful words. The words we choose matter. And that's why Proverbs 12:18 says this, and I think we can all resonate with this, that thoughtless words can wound as deeply as any sword. Come on, think about that for a minute. Thoughtless words can wound as deeply as any sword. But wisely spoken words can, what's that word? Heal. Wisely spoken words can heal. What a contrast. Wounding and healing, all in the choice of our words. So let me ask you, what are thoughtless words? What are thoughtless words? Well, the definition that I have is your next fill-in. Thoughtless words are usually the result of surrendering to emotion. Thoughtless words are usually the result of surrendering to emotion. We get into the moment, right? Just like that couple that was fighting over the anniversary card. Tensions rise, tempers rise, and all of a sudden, thoughtless words begin to come out of our mouth. And we've all been there because emotions tend to get the best of us. And we end up saying things that we do not mean because it comes out of hurt, not feeling loved or not feeling respected. And because of that, our emotional words become like a sword. And I think that's probably something we understand, but maybe something we haven't thought of is that the other person on the other end also has a responsibility. You see, your next fill in the course of conflict is not just determined by the person who initiates, but by the person who responds. By the person who responds. Come on, when you're in one of those moments, you feel like it's okay to lash out with your words because they're picking a fight or they started it. And you might be correct, but that person does not have the power to decide whether a fight actually occurs. That power rests with the responder. That power rests with the responder. It's why Proverbs 15:1 says, a gentle answer deflects anger. Make tempers flare. A soft answer deflects or turns away anger. It brings the temperature of the room down. But harsh words is like pouring gas on the fire. We've all been there. This is called the principle of first response. And I know this can kind of rub us the wrong way. We want to hold someone accountable for their words, but how we respond is a really big deal in moments when our spouse gets it wrong. And we will take turns getting this wrong. But the grace that God extends to us, that He wants us to extend to one another, by following the principle of first response, we're being called to take a poorly spoken comment and redirect it. Grace and communication that we all need from time to time. And so when your spouse delivers a cheap shot with words, it would be good for us to stop and to say, what's behind the words? What's behind it? What's the need that's not getting met? What's the hurt that lies underneath the surface? And to respond accordingly. So we know our words can wound, but our powerful words can heal. Words like, I trust you. Words like, I'm sorry. Or I forgive you. Or I believe in you because. Or I respect you so much for. Or I love you so much because. Or in the words of Cyndi Lauper, if you're lost, you can look and you will find me time after time. That's very healing, isn't it? It's very healing. I mean, I wouldn't lead with that, but somewhere you might want that. Ephesians 4:29, do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up, according to their, what's that word? According to their needs. And what does this look like as we begin to decipher this code? Women, it means that you're looking to use words that will build him up, words of respect, not to demean him and bring him down, but words that will lift him up. And men, for you, it's words that will show how much you love and you're there and you're not going anywhere. That undying love, even when we don't feel like it. We have this opportunity to use our words like Paul writes, to build each other up according to their needs, that they may benefit those who listen. And so our words have power in communication. We have to choose them carefully. And so here's the truth. The truth is that most marriages do not fall apart because of one explosive issue. They usually erode over time because they have a difficult time loving and respecting one another in the way they communicate. And so, as we take off for this week, men, how will you love your wife in your communication? What needs to change for you? And women, how will you respect your husband in your communication? And what needs to change for you? I think our cop-out oftentimes is, well, they don't deserve to be loved the way they're acting. They don't deserve to be respected the way they're acting. But I'm so grateful that even when we were lost and in our own sin, Christ died for us. Even when we were unlovable, he loved us. And it's what he's calling us to do for one another. And so deciphering this code is key. If we can choose love and respect, we will find communication that begins to heal rather than wound. So would you pray with me? Would you mind just closing your eyes all over this room? Closing your eyes if you're watching online. And I just want us to take 30 seconds in this moment for you to connect with God and God to connect with you. For you to say, God, in this relationship, maybe it's a family relationship, maybe it's a work relationship, maybe it's with your spouse. God, what do I need to change? How can I do better at this? Would you show me? And let's make that commitment to him. Just you and God. Let's do that. 30 seconds right now. Heavenly Father, I'm so grateful that you created men and women and created them differently. For in a marriage relationship, we need one another to communicate in a way that would bring love and respect to one another. That you would help us to choose words that promote healing and not woundedness. That we really would be better together as we learn to meet one another's truest needs. And we know this isn't easy. We know especially the last 11 months have not been easy on our relationships. And so I ask God that you would begin a healing work, a restorative work, that this would be a month and a series in which you would do deep work in our hearts and in our relationships as we surrender parts of ourselves back to you. As we humble ourselves to recognize that we've missed the mark in certain areas and we want to do better. We want to honor you, God, in our relationships. We want to honor you with the words that come out of our mouth. And so would you help us this week, I pray. Would you help us respond well when our spouse doesn't, to extend grace and forgiveness? May we be focused on it and may we be reminded of it by your Spirit, I pray. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen.